All right. Something I see a lot of, ready, is this idea, at least in like debate forums, Facebook discussion groups, you know, whatever, where there's a diverse group of people that are attending, is just about once every 2 or 3 days, somebody will post in there, hey, what's the silver bullet? What do I mean? I mean, they'll say, what if you're an atheist? They'll target a specific group. You're an atheist, you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, you're a polytheist, fill in the blank, whatever. What's the thing that would change your mind? What is the number one thing? I know that William Lane Craig has addressed this as a question of the day, and it's everywhere. It's something that people just throw out there all the time. Atheists are guilty of it, theists are guilty of it, agnostics are guilty of it, and can I please just say, could you please stop? Could you just not do that? Why? Quite simply, it doesn't exist. Or at least, it should not exist. There should not be any single fact, claim, proposition, idea, concept, or anecdote, anything that would change your complete worldview from one to another. There shouldn't be, simply because it's a web, from Christianity, where I come from. There's the historicity of Jesus, the historical history, or the historical narrative of the Old Testament, the New Testament, the manuscript evidence, textual criticism, just all those things, the various philosophical arguments, Kalam cosmological argument, the argument from morality, the argument from, there's so much out there that simply, not to mention, I don't want to go too deep into that rabbit hole, but the fact that, I was raised in it, exposed to it a long time, and people that I know that are involved in it, and obviously you don't want to build your life philosophy, your worldview off of, well, this is what my friends, my childhood homies, my family believe, but that does have influence. It doesn't have 100% influence, but it does have some. And I can guarantee it that if you're like any other human being, that somebody in your life comes along and they change their mind about, let's say, a certain form of content. Let's say, or different life changes as well can change, that you can be totally against social media, Facebook, but your kids move across the country and you won't be able to see them every day. You're probably going to get a Facebook so that you can interact with them and talk with them and share with them and keep relatively contacted with those people that you love, right? It'll change your mind about that. So there are small things that can change because of people around you. There's small things that can change, like major event of suffering comes into your life, job loss, or loss of a family or family member, loved one, just something like that. Going into the military and basic training, or going into a new field, enrolling in college. There are a lot of things that can chip away at, break down, maybe abrade your worldview in some ways, or that can change your perspective about different things, for sure. But that's not to say, it is okay to change your mind about stuff. Part of the basis behind the idea of evangelism and proselytizing and sharing the gospel with others, having this YouTube channel, is the idea that I might be able to change someone's mind over time by addressing different issues and thoughts and ideas and stuff. But I address all of those things because I know not any one of them is going to be holistically persuasive. You need all of them. think about it like if every single argument for Christianity is like a bullet in a magazine, you want as many of them as you can get your hands on, right? Because you don't know what kind of situation you're going to be in. And so you want to have somebody that's really struggling with the idea of a loving God and suffering might want to know more about God's love and suffering. They want to have that addressed. But somebody over here that's more scientific, intellectual, is going to be struggling more with, like, what about the creation of the universe? What about evolution? What about, on the opposite side of, like, somebody who's studying philosophy as well might be into, like, well, what about morality? What does morality have to say about the existence or non-existence of God? And so you need to have all of those things, at least a decent grasp of any and all of those things. So, if you want to be able to address most of, if not as many of, those challenging questions, and, I mean, let's just say, it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay, let's find out together. So, that all of that aside, stop looking for a golden gun with a silver bullet that you can just unload on every single person that you know of that specific ideology, or this specific ideology or whatever, that can just unravel their worldview and indoctrinate them to your own, because that does not exist. Lastly is this. I think the idea of this is based on the failings of Christianity. Why do I think that? I think that it's based on the failings of Christianity because atheists, agnostics, and secularists have seen how a kid who goes to homeschool or goes to private school, Christian schools, right, go their whole life, and then they graduate from high school with top of their grades or whatever, and then they go off to even Bible college, or like some of these like Wheaton or Fuller or some of these seminaries or whatever, 2 years in, and I'm not a Christian anymore. And there's statistics behind that. There's plenty of research that has gone into it. But I think the main thing to say about that is that you didn't have a Christian faith to begin with. And he's like, well, of course I did. I went to church. Like, that's not what makes you a Christian. Well, I tithed every Sunday. I volunteered with the youth group. I never missed a car wash fundraiser. I went to youth camp. That's not what makes you a Christian. That's not what makes you a Christian. And if you think that is what makes you a Christian, that's why you're a secularist now. You were always a secularist. Craig Rochelle is the book Practical Atheism, or a Practical Atheist. In that, you know what, you've been living your whole life, day to day, as an atheist. You've just been wearing the suit or the mask of Christianity up until now. And you go to college, you go to university, you find out it's not as rigid as an environment, making you go to church on Sunday and so forth, like the parents used to do. And you're like, why did I have this to begin with? And the true answer is you never had it to begin with. So I think that Christians, the bulk of the responsibility is on the Christian's shoulder. And to stop looking for that thing. Stop looking for it. It doesn't exist. And then also you need to do a better, more responsible job raising your kids to understand what real faith is, so that even if they go off to college having not committed to Christ, at least they know that much. At least they're aware of it. So, anyway, thoughts for today.